Like that was a long time just
Um,
for to script it all out, and reading it, you're like, oh, don't want to rush it and all that.
Yeah, yeah. I did this
Right.
thing,
Congrats.
this, thank you, thank you. It was really fun. I might have to bring one to the retreat that we do. But it was cool because I did one element where it was like ground into your senses. So you have to name five things that you see, then you smell, and it's like different numbers, like a five, four, three, two, one recipe for all your senses. And it helps ground you into where you're at in that moment. And that was like probably my favorite part to talk through.
That's so
Mm.
cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'd love to do something like that at the retreat.
Yeah.
Like every morning and every night or one or the other. Just all sit
Just
down
you
and do
wait,
a
Frankie.
guided
Just you wait.
meditation.
Just
Yes.
you wait,
You
brother.
guys already got it on the sketch?
Yes.
We
Yes. But
we
I
got
love that it's also being affirmed by like you, what you actually want to hear and see.
yeah,
Well, I glanced over everything and it looks so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
bro. Let's go. Well, it looks like it's just us tonight, but people always watch back, so
Okay.
we'll get
YouTube
started.
channel popping.
Seriously. Um, but thanks for everybody joining. Thank you, Frankie. Um, and for everyone that's watching. We're Wellness Mavericks. We come on every week and we talk about how we can grow, whether that's just in normal health or whether that's in, mindset, daily living, kind of all categories. But we're a group of young people who hop on every Monday and just talk and grow and learn together. And so there's always so much learning and growth that happens every week. And I'm really grateful. And I know we've heard some good feedback for other people who are really just happy to learn and grow. And so, um, yeah, that's pretty much what we do and what we are. Um, if y'all didn't know, Wellness Mavericks Retreat is official, and yeah, everything's lined up now. So, it's gonna be in Fairfield, Idaho, July 18th and 22nd. Um, all the info is on the Instagram, and if you need more info, you can always reach out to us. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome. It's gonna be a 4 or 5 day retreat, and we're just gonna be together in nature, learning, growing, working out, soaking in sun, resting, um, eating really, really good food. So it's gonna be a really fun time. So if you guys haven't already signed up, go ahead and do that. We're so excited to see you all there. And if you have any questions, please reach out and need help with like travel, finding good deals on flights or finding a ride to get there. Let us know because we have some routes coming from Texas and I'm coming from Michigan and I don't know if I'll have much room, but we're definitely going to be able to make it work if there's other people on the way. So, feel free to reach out if you have questions. Um,
You have a question for today?
do I have a question for today?
Yeah.
I do not have a question.
I have a
No,
question.
go ahead.
Okay, I want to know what everyone had for breakfast today.
Go ahead, Frankie. I'm going to let Frankie start this one.
I had 4 scrambled eggs with Mexican blended cheese on the top
Mm.
and
Sheesh.
bagel with cream cheese. That's
Nice.
my go-to breakfast.
Solid
That's
American breakfast.
Yep,
literally
my
that's a
carbs,
Frankie
protein.
breakfast.
Huh? Again, Frankie?
What?
What did you say? You had it in your car?
No, no, I said carbs.
Oh, car.
Carbs.
Yeah, my bagel, my carbs.
Nice. Love it. I had a I don't even know what you would call it, but I put it in a glass cup and I put beans on the bottom that my mom made overnight, soaked overnight and then prepared them, cooked them. And then I did baby tomatoes with some salt. And then I did a whole full avocado and then marinated lamb on top that I cooked up on the stove top
Oh
and
my
just
goodness.
sprinkled salt all over. Like that was the only seasening. And it was so good. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I know why you asked the question now.
No.
That's wild. That
Sounds
sounds
amazing.
amazing.
But I know like everybody has wellness mavericks. Like we're always talking about nutrition, health, different things like that. So it's so good to know what everybody's making on any given day.
Genuinely. Ev, are you live right now? All right.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like babysitting, so I'm kind of like 10 places at once. But this morning I had eggs sunny side up, classic, with some of my mom's sourdough bread and then some garden cucumbers. So that's what I had.
Wow.
Yum.
Incredible.
Love that. Okay, Michael, what did you have for breakfast?
I had a really good breakfast. I had half a pound of ground beef. I was at my buddy's house. Half a pound of ground beef, had like 5, 6 eggs up in there. It was like a big skillet mix. And then we threw in some fresh garlic. We threw in chopped diced tomatoes. We threw in diced onions. We put cilantro on top. We shredded some raw cheese on top.
Man.
I think that was it for the skillet. And then we put that out the cast iron on the plate, threw on some organic live and active sauerkraut onto the side. Um, and then we put on some blackberries on the side of each plate as well.
Wow.
And
Aesthetic
then
breakfast.
Yeah.
I didn't even take a picture. I
Take a
should
picture
have.
of it? Dang it.
And then we drizzled the top with with raw organic maple syrup from my grandparents' maple syrup farm.
No
So we
way.
drizzled the raw syrup on top. It's a game changer on beef.
Oh my God.
I gotta bring some of the retreat or something because everyone deserves some.
Yeah. I've
Maybe
never
I'll
heard
bring
of
maybe
that
I'll bring a
done.
gap. That's what we'll do actually. I'll probably end up bringing one and we can all eat the syrup over there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my
so that
God.
was delicious. And then we pulled out the juicer and we had um carrot and orange juice next on the side for breakfast.
Wow.
So honestly, 10 out of 10 breakfast.
Holy
It was really
cow.
good.
I love that. I
No,
love
you definitely asked me on the right morning. I don't always have juice for breakfast.
that's
Um,
amazing.
it was amazing though.
That sounds so delicious. I've never heard of maple syrup with ground beef, but I love it with scrambled eggs, except for I don't handle eggs at all. So like they're never part of my morning.
Oh,
But
really?
maple syrup on ground beef, I think that would be delicious. That'd be so good.
It's insane. Like, yeah, for the people that are like big into like those ground beef bowls where they like throw on raw honey on top, like those type of
Yeah.
people, if you sub it, like I love raw honey on top. Don't get me wrong, but this maple syrup from my grandparents' maple syrup farm is like so good.
That's
Oh
so
my gosh. So I'll have to bring some of the retreat actually that we can all eat. We can have some type of like breakfast for dinner or even just for our breakfasts. Like we can have it. I'll have to remember that. I'll write that down.
that sounds amazing.
Breakfast for dinner sounds so fun.
Genuinely. Oh, I'm so excited for the retreat. Wow. Anywho, so we're gonna get into the topic now. Topic for today is healthy masculinity. But there's a better word that Gemma used. What's
Secure
the title?
masculinity.
Secure, that's the word. I was blanking.
Yes, yes.
We're talking about secure masculinity. So we're kind of talking about feminine and masculine traits this month, if you haven't noticed already. Next week, we're talking about women traits. And so I think we're going to have a women speaker on, or maybe that's the week after, probably next week.
We'll try.
So today we're talking about masculine, more masculine traits, kind of like what it means to be a secure, like healthy, masculine man. So first there's a couple things we have to break down. So I got a couple bullet points written here. So we have to understand what's healthy masculinity before we can go into like what secure masculinity is. So some traits I wrote down, I've jotted right here, are emotional strength, right? Being open about emotions without shame. Vulnerability is seen as strength. For some reason, a lot of guys have a tendency to just like lock up and close. And I think some of it is justified. I think some of it's how we're raised and just a lot of past like traumas or experiences or things like that. But I do think there's a point where you have to be like, okay, am I going to live this like service level life just locked up with all these walls, or am I going to like get vulnerable? Because that's where freedom is. and vulnerability. That's really where you can go to those unresolved things. And so yeah, so like, and I think identity is important in that too. Like for me, for example, having my identity in Christ, it's just like when your identity's in him, you want to be vulnerable. That's just something that happens naturally. You want to be vulnerable and you want to open up. And I think like even just like with brothers, there's people you're in relationship with, or for women with your girls, I think like that vulnerability is really important. Not seeing it as shame. So I would say vulnerability first is a trait of healthy masculinity. Another trait I actually wrote down is respect for others, which a lot of these I don't get why people wouldn't just be kind, but sometimes a really like macho, like masculine guy will like treat others in a more disrespectful way, thinking he's getting ahead or he's putting himself above, but all that's doing in reality is lowering him, and he's losing respect for anyone who's worthy of respect and notices those things, which those are the type of people that you want to be around, and those are people that are normally big importance or of big importance. And people notice that when you treat other people poorly, and that's not the reason why you should treat people right, because other people are watching. It should come from your own revelation, and your own beliefs, whatever that case is for you. But the secure masculine man isn't going to he's not going to put others down to lift himself up, right? There's this one quote, and I don't know who it came from, but it talks about you don't have to you never lose your light when you light someone else's candle. I think I said that wrong. But when you light someone else's candle, your light never goes out, your light never dims, and so it's like you don't have to like put others down to try and lift yourself up. You can lift others up and you'll be just fine. And matter of fact, it's better that way too, when you lift others up. And so I think there's like this thing of like unhealthy like masculinity when you're like making fun of people or putting others down. It shows like a weakness. It shows a lack of security in yourself, right? It shows insecurity, right? So we're talking about what makes a healthy masculine trait. And so we kind of have to go backwards, right? And talk about insecurities before we go to security. And so having respect for others shows a security, because you don't have to put others down to make yourself feel better. You're secure, and you want to be kind to others, and you want to shine, and just be loving and kind. It's also like, I think on another level, it's like a lot of people that are secure just really don't have time for all the BS, for putting others down and things like that. You're kind of just doing your thing. You don't feel the need to tear others down. There's that saying like hurt people hurt people. If you have unresolved issues and you're not secure, you have insecurities, you're going to be looking for ways to try and boost yourself up, put yourself above other people. But if you're secure, you don't really have time for that. That isn't really something you put your time into. You'd rather focus on exhorting people and lifting others up, I think, than putting people down. Then number 3 is accountability. A healthy masculine man is someone who is able to take responsibility for their actions and learn from their mistakes. And this is a hard one because it takes humility. It takes being humble. It takes being wrong, but insecure or an unhealthy masculine man will he won't be receptive to learning and to growing. He takes everything as a jab because he's insecure, right? If you critique him, even if it's in the right way, even if it's in a loving, kind way, when you critique him, those are like jabs and stabs to him, and he's wounded and he's offended, right? Because he's not secure. That's the whole thing. He's insecure because he hasn't dealt with those things. But if you critique a man who is humble and who has humility and is open to being wrong, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be easy for him, but if he's receptive and he's like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to take accountability, like I messed up there. That shows healthy masculinity because he's taking accountability for his actions. That's what we're called to do as men. We're called to lead and take accountability, and we will mess up and we will make mistakes. This idea that we're all perfect is just unrealistic and not true at all. And so taking accountability is like, why would you not just take accountability and move on? You're going to mess up. Like, no one's perfect here. We're all figuring it out, like we're all just running through life doing things for the first time. Like, you're only like a son once or a daughter once, and then you become a brother, right? You're only a brother once, and then you become a father, or whatever the case, and then an uncle, right? Or a grandfather. Like, you're only getting those roles once at a time, and you're doing them for the first time ever when you do each of those roles. A friend, a coworker once. You're only one of those roles one time. And so it's like, we're all just learning here. Like, take accountability for when you do mess up. It shows security, and really, if you are secure, you don't have to try and lift yourself up. There's this unrealistic expectation that, an unsecure man has to be right about everything. Like, they have to be correct. If they're not correct, it like diminishes their ego. But it's like, dude, like, you can be wrong sometimes and still be a good person. You can make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, probably every day. I make plenty of mistakes. But I've learned to take accountability, and learn from those and apologize and move on if I hurt people in the process, or even just myself, to move on. It doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, but it's something that I'm working towards, and always will be kind of aware of. Okay. Kind of what we talked about for this next number 5 is supportive leadership. So this kind of goes in hand with the last one, respect for others. But a secure masculine man, he takes the opportunity to uplift others, not to dominate them, right? So an insecure man would take any opportunity to jab another guy, right? Or put someone down. They think it's going to lift them up, but it kind of goes back to that candle analogy where you can light someone else's candle. Your candle is still lit. You can still lift others up, and you're doing nothing but just spreading love and positivity, and the effect that has, it really can change like lives. And I don't know, when you speak life into people, like, words have so much power, and when you speak life and lift others up, not only is that just like one of the best things you can do, and your words are so powerful, but that shows like a security. You're secure enough in yourself that the light doesn't always have to be on you. Like, you're okay with like lifting them up. It comes out of a place from humility. And it's just security, right? Like, an insecure guy needs the attention. He wants to know that he's important because he's not secure with himself. He needs that validation, right? It's very childish. You can have grown men that are still very childish. And this isn't a dig at men, that are like this, but it's like, there's a point in time where you have to grow out of it. You have to learn these things, or else you're going to be stuck in the same patterns. And I can't imagine how that would be an intriguing life to live. It doesn't sound intriguing to be insecure and to have your guard up, and to want to be the center, and want to have the spotlight on you, and to put others down. It's being comfortable and being okay with what's going on inside of you that you kind of, can lift others up. So anywho, the next one is self-awareness. So a secure, healthy masculine man has an understanding and personal impact in choosing growth over ego. So, like, for example, when you have the chance to lift yourself up, right? Like that ego moment, and you choose to reflect, and to have that honesty in your thoughts, that self-awareness, recognizing how they affect others. You're being willing to let your own shortcomings go, listen to feedback, and choose growth over protecting your pride. So it's that same thing. It kind of applies with the last one of like taking accountability. Like, you're able to be honest with yourself and reflect. Like, wow, maybe they have a good point. Like, I think I did mess up pretty bad. Acknowledge, right? Being self-aware, you know what I mean? And then recognizing how that what your actions are doing can affect others. I have to do this on like a daily basis. I think it's very important to reflect. Um, you know, it's almost like accepting those shortcomings, listening to that feedback, and then you choose. You're like, okay, I choose growth rather than like protecting my own pride or my own ego. Like I choose growth, right? I choose to like grow through this rather than like, oh no, like I'm right, you're wrong. And you just like put up this wall, and it's like, that shows insecurity when you do that, right? A secure man is like, yeah, like I made a mistake, but you know what? Like I'm gonna grow through it, and like and we're gonna work through it. It's not about perfection. It's about being teachable, present, and intentional. Um, so I love that one. That's so good. The next one is boundaries. Boundaries are huge for a healthy masculine man. Knowing how to set and respect them in relationships, right? A healthy masculine man, it's one of those things where he's not going to tolerate certain things. There's certain things that he's just not going to tolerate. It's a clear and definite like yes or no, that this is what I'm okay with and this is not what I'm okay with. But it's having that line and not being swayed, like a slim branch or like a slim tree, but having deep roots and being like, no, like this is what I'm okay with, this is what I'm not okay with. And I think there's a very different I think it's very different than stubbornness. Stubbornness is being like, oh, I'm not moving, I made up my mind, right? But having boundaries is having deep roots and knowing kind of like more morally like where you stand. Right. So this could be in your relationships, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It means knowing how to set personal boundaries without guilt. And just as importantly, knowing how to respect the boundaries of other people. It really reflects self-control. That's one of the biggest characteristics with this. It reflects self-control, which is a huge reflection of healthy masculinity and secure masculinity when you're able to reflect that self-control, and honor too. And yeah, and so it's the contrary. So it's the opposite of control or passivity, right? Being able to reflect strength and honor and self-control. Okay, next we have courage and compassion. Being brave enough to stand up for what's right while also being kind. And I think that just comes from being secure. You're not going to let, people, if you're seeing something happen, I think a secure man will stand up for what's right. I think a secure man isn't looking for a fight, right? Or to prove themselves. I think they're not looking um to be involved in that type of conflict. But if they have to, I think a secure man will stand up for what's right. It's that courage of standing firm to truth, even when it's uncomfortable, right? So whatever that is, maybe it's your belief, maybe you're set apart in different ways, but it's being able to stand firm in that truth, and to do it with like a compassion and like kindness. And it really is the opposite of being like loud or aggressive. It's more of like a steady, loving, kind of just like firm and just in your own, in that courage. And then it also goes for like defending others and speaking up for what's right. And Yeah, and I think another point too that I'll probably just add is that empathy. Like a masculine man, I really feel like has empathy for other people, like really has like a heart for other people. Like, I think there's like this idea of like a masculine man with like pride and ego and just like kind of spearheading, like elbowing his way through the front, but I think a real masculine man, has like a heart and a care for other people. Um, and I think that shows so much security. Same thing, that they're able to care for other people, and they're able to kind of um, just kind of take that spotlight off of them. I think that's huge. Um, so I'll do a couple examples of, an insecure, a couple more of an insecure man. So it would be control. right? Control is a trait of somebody who's insecure. Suppression of emotion, entitlement or passivity, avoiding accountability, and domineering authority. So these are all things that are not um, of a secure man. And then here's some that are of a secure man. We talked a little bit about leadership, but I'll go into a little more. Um, but it's almost like taking a role of like serving from the back and kind of like leading from that standpoint of like I'm here with you, like being there together. And it could be from the front or back, but a real like leader and a secure man is like there in the battle too, like they're there together, that's secure, right? And I think that that can be reflected in a lot of different ways. But I think even just that ability to lead, in a secure, loving way, not in a domineering way, right? Because there's plenty of instances of like job situations for people, and even for myself, of like the boss that's like just aggressive, like overly aggressive, and it's like all over fear, like only people only listen to him because of fear. And then as soon as he leaves, everyone whispers and is talking, and no one likes him, and it's all out of fear and control, compared to the one boss who's like, I don't know if you all have ever experienced this, but I've been able to experience both, and it's really wild, the difference in what gets accomplished. But then there's the other side of like the boss, or this could relate for anything, who is like very gentle and kind and just like, exhorts you, it doesn't give you too much kind of like attention, but kind of lifts you up, and then you're like, wow, and you almost like seek their approval. You're like, wow, this is like such a good like leader, and you almost like seek their approval, and so you excel in your work. That's what a real secure masculine leader is doing, is leading well in a loving, not domineering way, and just a just and firm and steady way. And so if you all have ever experienced that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, it's just, you can picture like the leader that you look at and you're like, wow, I have like a really like solid fear of you, and not in a fear of like a scary, aggressive fear, but of a fear of just like, wow, like it's almost like you want to like please them. It's like, this is such a good leader. Like, you want to make them like happy with what you're doing in their decision, or in your decisions. You want to work hard, you want to excel. That's the power of a secure masculine leader, is that effect on, it could be the employee, it could relate to a lot of things, but the domino effect of a secure masculine like man can have, it can change so much, when that man is secure, because then the people underneath him love and care and respect for him, and there's just like, there's like a loving fear, and they want to please, and they want to excel in their work. They enjoy the work, and this is like job related, but just as the example goes, they would want to work. They would love coming into work. They would enjoy the atmosphere. I'm sure we've all heard of toxic atmospheres and have all been a part of them. It's very common, but this is the opposite, right? All because it starts from the top. Every business is a reflection of the owner, right? So if it's a toxic workplace, you just have to look up to management, and then who's treating management that way, and then look up from there, and it all reflects the owner, right? But if you see a place, like even like a small example, I don't know if y'all have ever been to a Trader Joe's, but just how kind they are. Like, I've always noticed that, I travel all the time, and every time I go to Trader Joe's, they're always so kind. I check out, and they're always asking me how my day is, checking me out, just so kind. It's like, wow, like you can tell they're trained this way. And you look up at the CEO, and you look up at the line, and it's very apparent they're trained this way, right? Because their secure leaders aren't willing to tolerate that other behavior, right? They're only willing to tolerate the best. That excellence would be another word for it. And so that's a really, like, we could dive into that even more, but that's something interesting to think about next time you guys are somewhere and you see poor employees, not in a financial aspect, but poor attitudes or things like that in the workplace. Just look up, right? Look at their managers if you can, and then look up to like the owners
Michael froze. Did he freeze for you, Frankie?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, yeah. You look
Oh,
up.
Are we good?
We hear you.
Oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah. Weird. Now, both of you are frozen.
But you can hear me though?
I can hear you. Yeah, go
Oh,
for
I'm
it.
gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. So anywho, and the latter, right, would be with that workplace where, you know, people are secure, and the owners are secure, and it trickles down. So that's just an example to show like how big of a deal this can be on people and just life and everything. That leadership's so important. And that goes for a man too, right? Like leading a family, like that trickles down. That's the same thing. Like that trickles down to his wife and to his children too. Like it all starts there, right? At the head of the house, and it trickles down. So anywho, I think this is very important. Um, Next would be emotional integrity. We kind of talked about that, right? You know, being able to express those things, strengthen character, right? Um, and then responsibility, stewardship, love, and sacrifice. I think those are all like traits of one who is secure, in their masculinity. Um, and so I think that was pretty much all I've had on the topic.
That was
Um,
great. I
yeah,
really enjoyed that. And it's interesting. I was thinking like, how is this different than our last conversation? Because in our last conversation, we talked about the masculine and feminine energetics and the concept of what masculine and feminine is. And here we broke down like, how does that secure man function in the world when he has his feminine and masculine in balance, in wholeness, like they're not operating out of wounded states and they're operating in balance within that one secure individual who happens to be a male. And how does he look and appear and act in the world? And I think that was such a beautiful, eloquent breakdown. I really, yeah, it was great to listen to.
thank you.
I took notes. Very good.
dude, I loved that. That was awesome, Michael.
Thanks, bro.
Some of my takeaways that I would love to share
Yes.
are I think there's an old style of masculinity that used to be prevalent that was like pride, ego, macho man, and it's still there, but it's so cool to see people waking up and um, being intentional with their vulnerability. As a male, I think it's like the complete opposite of pride is vulnerability. And yeah, it was just so cool to hear you speak on all that, and a really good reminder for me um, to just not be hard on myself and just love and connect with people. Um, yeah, you said vulnerability creates freedom. And I really liked the quote about the candle too. That was a really good visual, and I'm sure you guys know people in your life that are like that. For me, it's my Uncle Vince, and yeah, it just puts a smile on my face just thinking about him because he's so compliment oriented. He always makes you feel good. It's you don't even remember what he says. Sometimes you do, but it's just like the way that he is. You remember how you feel when you're with him, and I crave to be that way. And so that's a really good reminder as far as my character goes to practice. So yeah, I loved all this today.
Yeah. I love that you have a comparison to like, or like you have a real life example to someone who's emanating those characteristics of secure masculine, because you could also see that that's a balance of secure masculine and feminine energies within him, that he's able to build a family, a home, himself, and then reflect that to other people around him. It's built in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that. No, it's cool.
And the
Something about their
leadership
energy,
aspect.
you know, the way they carry themselves, the way they speak life, you know.
Yeah.
Our words are so important. And so that's cool because when you can really like experience that and have like a complete relation to that in real life, it's like wow, you know. And here's the thing too, we get to choose who we want to be, you know, like we that's a conscious choice we get to make. So you can be that way, you know, we can all be this way, we can all speak life, you know, it's a choice we all make every single day. And so, and you know, that is really cool because I aspire to be like that too. Just, you know, because those people just make you feel incredible, you know, and who wouldn't want to make people feel that way, you know? So,
Well, good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, Michael. I think that I really enjoyed what you were saying about just not making it about yourself and how that is um, really marking of a mature believer. And also, like, even relating that to, I mean, years down the road, like potentially in a spouse, like you want someone with those attributes so that you can, I don't know, you can just really rest in your femininity. And like girls will never submit to a man that's not worthy of submitting to, and they won't ever submit to someone who they don't respect. And I think that's even confirming of like different attributes in a man that's really worth submitting to. And so yeah, well
wow,
done, Michael. That
that's
was really,
real.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
it's true.
It's so true.
That's so true.
So
Wow.
true.
Nobody wants to submit. Like right now, I'm like, I got it pretty good. Like, you know, I met God while like the last 4 years of really diving in deep with God. Like, why would I add anyone that close in my circle who's just gonna bring chaos and selfishness?
Right.
And
Right.
and I don't know, or that's even she wants inside. The puppy wanted inside. I think that that's even really inspiring too, because it's like if I want someone with attributes like that in their character, then that means I need to have attributes like that in my character, because someone with that top tier of a character wouldn't want to be with someone who's selfish
It's true.
or just try themselves like the center of attention all the time, or who like what you were saying about emotional suppression. Like nobody wants things to be out of balance. And so yeah,
So
well done,
true.
Michael. That was really
Thank you. Wow. That's really, yeah, no, it's true. It just makes it so, yeah, it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool hearing your perspective.
next week it'll be the opposite side about the feminine. What does a secure female look like? And how does that work in combination or in complement to a secure man? And I think this applies for all dynamics, whether it's in work or whether it's in a household or between like a father and a daughter, between a husband and a wife, between uncle and a niece, like all these different dynamics of any dynamic or a friend, guy friend and a girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, all these dynamics are going to reflect your ability to sustain your security as a man or a woman, and your values will be reflected in those relationships as well. But I think it'll be really interesting to put all the pieces together by next week when we talk about what does a secure woman look like out in the world. What does she look like? What does she sound like? What are her characteristics? How can we recognize her and become like her as women? Yeah. Thank you, Michael, so much
Of
for
course.
this talk. I appreciate it so much.
Of course. I learned a lot. This is really, yeah, I'm gonna like have to dive even more to this because I'm like, wow, you know, these are real things, you know, and very important too. Especially I think being a man's a big role, you know, to be that leader, because yeah, it's just especially in a leadership position,
Mhm.
right? Because having that weight of that role that can shift workplaces or shift families, I mean, it starts from the top. And so even just like talking about it out loud is like, wow, this is something I need to take very seriously, you know, but in like a loving, like good way that, you know what I mean? Not in like a, but you know, in a way of like growing and like just kind of taking it very like seriously though, like in the right way, you know.
Yeah, implement it in little things and everything
Yeah,
will follow. Yeah. Yeah.
so good.
Thank you guys so much for coming on for another week. It's 45 minutes into our call time. I remember in the beginning, we were
That's
like, 30
crazy.
minutes, 30 minutes is what it's going to be, but I love it. It's such a good pace. We like to round it out at 40, 45. So I
That's crazy. It's already been 45 minutes. What in the world?
appreciate you guys so much. Everyone can watch the recording on our YouTube and watch future sessions and also Wellness Mavericks Retreat 2025, July 18th to the 22nd will be in Fairfield, Idaho. It's going to be incredible. A lot of the things that we talk about here is just going to be magnified and we'll be in person. So like a few calls ago, we'll get to hug each other and be present with each other and it'll be so great. So I appreciate you guys
Come
so
on.
much. The applications are in our Instagram and on the group chat. If you want to be added, message me or Michael.
Wow. Thank you, Gemma. Thanks for coming on, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you
guys.
guys so much today.
Of
Appreciate it.
course.
Thank you, Mike.
Y'all have a great week.
Bye, y'all.
Shelby. Bye.
Bye. Love y'all.
Be
See ya.
blessed.